Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more glorious 40k content. Games Workshop very kindly sent me out the second wave for the Kroot launch. Obviously they gave me the army box first. I did a couple of videos on that. I still actually have a couple of videos to do on that large scale box set and I will get to them in the very near future. But obviously the next wave has been dropped and that did include the awesome Lone-spear miniature. It is quite unique to anything released for the Kroot so far. So I thought I would do that in today's video. Now, I will primarily be focusing on painting the beast itself, which I looked up its name literally before I hit record and it's already slipped out of my head. A Kalamandras, something like that. It's actually really hard to stick in my brain, but it is an awesome creature. They've done it in a kind of dark brown and bright orange scheme, orange being my favorite color. I could not resist going along with that and trying to create my own nice orange and black scheme for the beast. I will be painting the rider as well today, but I won't be going into full detail on him. If you want to learn how I paint Kroot, like I said, there's a bunch of videos already on my channel how to paint basic Kroot infantry. Those are the techniques that I will be pulling forward and using on the top, but I will be going into like proper detail on how I painted the beast, and I'm actually really proud of how he turned out. So I'm excited to show you this video. Before I get into it, so a huge thank you to all of my patrons. As always, you guys support me and keep this channel going. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you're interested in getting involved in that, linked down below in the description. You get access to a private Discord server and a daily blog from me, keeping you guys up to date what's going on in the hobby. And also you get to kind of dictate what happens on my channel, videos that I make, and what content gets created. Also, if you want to support the channel in another way and you like these awesome Kroot models and you live in the UK, don't forget my Element game link down below. You can get up to 15% off your Games Workshop purchases and a bunch of other hobby purchases from their website. And if you use their link below, I get a nice little kickback at absolutely no extra cost to you. So that's something that you save a little bit of money on your purchases and help the channel out. It's a twofer, so why not? All right, guys, without further ado, let's jump in and paint a giant orange lizard. Okay, so this is the awesome Tau Lone-spear model, or should I say Kroot Lone-spear miniature. I really do thoroughly enjoy all the new sculpts for Kroot, and I really do hope that they continue to give us more sculpts of Kroot in the near future. Kind of looking for great Narlocks. Is that a thing that's going to happen? I don't know. We can all hope. So obviously I've assembled the miniature separate, the rider off. And then obviously the beastie that he rides a separate piece. I sprayed them black and then I gave them a dusting of grey cere, as I traditionally do when it comes to painting most of my miniatures. I find this is one of the best starting points for contrast painting. And we're of course going to be contrast painting. Now I really like this scheme. It's a little bit too blended for me. I don't really want to take it into the yellows. I want to kind of keep it more orangey, but I'm definitely going to take the semblance of this color scheme and use it where I can. I do really like it. So contrast Gryph-hound orange is going to be the first color we do, and we're going to apply this to most of this skin of the beastie himself. It's called a something salamander. I can never remember the name of this thing, but it's not too difficult to get the contrast in the right position. We're going to be going over the top of it with some black contrast as well for specific bits, some blocked in scales, and the top part of it. I do like the kind of two-tone schemes. Like I said, I will have clips of me painting the guy on top, but I won't be sharing with you the paints that I used or going into like crazy amounts of detail, as I feel like I've shared all this information before on my other kind of Kroot painting videos. So if you really like what I did with this beastie and you really do like how the guy looks at the end and you want to follow along with how I painted him, I will leave a link in the description below for my last Kroot video where I painted another beastie and rider. And I went into proper detail in that on how I painted them, so you can follow along with that stage. So here I am with the Black Templar. Now originally I didn't know if I was going to do the scales on the leg, hence why I did them in all orange. But I soon realized that I did want to do that. So I did all the black down the center, all the kind of armored scales down his back. I got all of his spines kind of covered with the black as well. And then I did decide that I wanted to get those kind of mottled scales on the side done with the black as well. I'm really happy that I did this. Later on when I layer up that black, it does look really nice. And I'm really pleased with the result. Like I said, I have a bunch of different Kroot videos still to make. I haven't done a traditional, just a Kroot warrior. I did the Kill Team one, and I feel like he kind of covers my need to do a Kroot basic infantry video. But then again, perhaps I should go back and just paint up, a squad of 5 dudes for a video and kind of see how they come together. I also have things like Kroot hounds to do, and then the new kind of larger guys with the cannons on their back. They used to be called, what were they called? Oh, I can't remember now. We got a little bit of brown contrast, and we're going to apply this to all of the saddle and reins of this thing. There is a little bit of metallic chains and buckles and stuff, like where his reins actually meet the salamander's mouth is metallic, and then like I said, there's some buckles there that are supposed to be silver as well. I forgot to record the silver part, so just go around with a bit of lead belcher paint after this stage and make sure you paint in all of those. I forgot to record it, but I did do it, so you will see the model pop up with the correct silver paints really soon. And here I am now applying the colors that I use for painting the Kroot Lone-spear himself. He is a really interesting character. The concept behind a lone spear is someone that doesn't belong with the pack. He doesn't fit in, he doesn't fight well, he doesn't hunt well with other Kroot, so he becomes a loner. He goes out by himself, usually mounted on a beast for a little bit of extra protection. And he hunts and he fights and he does all sorts of things. Now he has two options of weapons. He has these big awesome javelins. Now the javelins are quite powerful but quite short range. They're like strength 10. They've got a nice decent armor penetration. They have 2 damage. And they're multiple shots. They're quite good. Whereas his sniper rifle, which is the weapon that I gave him, which I think looks better, is incredibly long range, but it's a single shot. This is skill 3, so it's going to hit on 3s. Now, my use for this particular piece is to pop out of cover, fire off a shot that you want to concentrate other firepower in your army at, because he allows them to reroll hits. So let me explain that again. If this guy fires at a unit and scores a hit, he doesn't have to wound or kill or anything like that, just scores a hit against that enemy unit. That enemy unit, anything else in your army that targets that enemy unit gets to reroll to hit, which I think is pretty cool. And obviously he has the fire and fade rule, so he can appear out of scenery, out of crops of trees or behind a building, fire off that shot and then fade back away. So I don't want to particularly be risking him being killed out in the open with his javelins. His javelins are like 12-inch range or something. Maybe they're a little bit more, 16, 18-inch range, but still, that puts him a little bit too close to the action. And I feel like he is best served using that extra ability to its maximum effect, picking a strong unit in the enemy army that you want to dedicate a lot of firepower to and plinking off that shot. Let me know if that's how you guys would use him, or do you think he should have the javelins and go for maximum damage? Maybe I should take 2 of these guys. And one should have the javelin, one should have the rifle. You never know. Obviously going in with the metallics in this guy, I do love the kind of 2-tone metallics that the Kroot do have with the silver and then all of the brass for things like scopes and, you know, all the attachments and stuff. I really do think that like suits their tone really nicely. I've given him kind of like a bone ivory handle. Well, the middle of his rifle is basically, the body of his rifle, shall we say, is kind of that color. We're going to shade the model down with Agrek Search Shade. Now, I'm going to do something bizarre here. If you guys watch my videos, it's kind of a bizarre thing that I'm going to do. I'm not going to wash the monster. I think the tones and the way the contrast sat on that model, how well detailed that model is, that I don't think it needs to be shaded at all. I think that might detract from the scheme that I'm going to try and go towards. So, like I said, I'm going to base him like he is, but this is still just the raw contrast on him right now. And from this point on, I'm going to layer him up. And like I said, I'm going to go back into further detail on the how I'm going to layer this guy up, as opposed to kind of glossing over it like I do with the Rider. So I'm going to be leaning on the 2 thin coats range of paints. And I'm going to start with the Fanatic Orange. So I do really enjoy layering up certain colors with the 2 thin coats range. The orange is one of my favorites. I find the pigment and color of the Games Workshop ones to be really weak and really hard to use. But if that's what you have access to, that's what you enjoy using, and you want to use Games Workshop paints, I will leave a link down in the description below, and there's a conversion chart where you can say, okay, he used Fanatic Orange, I need to use Fugan Orange. Cool. And then you can use Games Workshop paints for that. So don't worry about that if you don't have these paints. The conversion chart that Transatlantic Games put out in relation to 2 thin coats has got you covered. Now I'm going in with a really nice, like I said, the skin on this thing is so well defined, it's so well sculpted that the layering process becomes kind of super intuitive, super enjoyable, and you basically just got to go on autopilot and just start layering. Now we're going to go for 2 tones, 2 coats of the orange paint, just to make sure that it really does pop. I find that these orange tones do look really kind of, they play the natural role really well, even though this thing is like, it's a bright orange creature. The orange tones of the paint make it feel like you might actually see this orange in nature. And as you can see, I'm being quite careful going through and hitting those kind of raised areas, leaving all of the contrast orange in the recesses and just highlighting it. It may have taken me I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to layer up the orange on this thing. And then when I jump to the higher tone, obviously I'm using less orange paint, so maybe 10 minutes. So give yourself 25 minutes to layer the orange on this piece. And that will be the most complicated steps for painting this entire piece. I think you can give yourself 25 minutes to make this kind of standout miniature stand out in your army. Obviously, if I only have one of these miniatures, the rest of the models on the table are going to be, you know, drabs. They're going to be greens and they're going to be browns and stuff like that. And then you just have this incredibly vibrant orange model, which will grab people's attention. They will stoop down. They will look a little bit closer. So that's why I think spending a little bit of time on models like this is super important. As you can see, we're diving in with the second coat now. As you can see, I'm using a sparing amount of it and just going for really bright highlights. And you can kind of see the difference between the front leg done and the hind leg not done, and the different tone popping. You see how fast I'm moving. This isn't like sped up footage. This is how fast I am highlighting this piece. So you don't need to spend too much time on it. Obviously, if you're not used to layering, you can take your time. I am a little bit faster with the layering these days. But I'm achieving, like, I think I'm quite a nice result. I'm really pleased. Like, I know what this model looks like at the end. I've finished painting him already before I'm talking to you right now. And he did turn out as like one of those pieces where even I stood back at the end and was like, oh, I'm quite proud of myself for this piece. I'd love to know if you guys are planning to do any other colors on it. But as it stands, the orange here, I think pops. I think it looks great. Now, we are, of course, going to go in with the two different tones of black, even though it's not quite black. We're going to go with the Dark Reaper, which is a black with a touch of grey, and then we're going to go into Dungeon Stone Grey, which is kind of like a shale or slate grey at the end to highlight all the scales. And this is going to make it pop. So with the Dark Reaper paint, or the Death Reaper paint, as you can see, I'm just stabbing in around the areas with the, we put the contrast on. We don't need to go for maximum coverage, but where any of the actual armored kind of plates are, we're going to make sure we do get those. And you will notice the difference from the scaled portion on the front leg versus the scaled portion on the back leg. You can notice the difference. It is kind of a jump up in color, but subtle. We don't want to go crazy here. Like, I always felt like the orange is the primary color for this beast. And obviously I don't want to go too crazy with the black and draw your attention away from that. Even the rider himself is quite kind of drab colors. I went for quite a light skin tone. His cloth and armor are browns and blacks. I definitely don't want to draw attention away from the orange. Here's the first coat of black done. And like I said, we're going to go in now with the Dungeon Stone Grey and go for an even finer highlight. If you guys don't have any of the Too Thin Coats range of paints and you do want to get them and you do live in England, my Element Game links is below. You can order from them. It'll cost you nothing extra. In fact, with them, you will save yourself a little bit of money. They're usually about 15% lower than other game stores. And the Mediocre Hobbies will get a little bit of a kickback too. So both of us win in this situation. So as you can see, I'm being much more careful with the highlights on the Dungeon Stone Grey, just aiming for those kind of flat panels, those little armored scales, not even going for full coverage on them. And then also the actual spikes protruding through his shoulder and horns up the back. We're going to get a little bit of coat of that Dungeon Stone Grey as well. This will help just, make those two colors pop. They're both fully highlighted. They're both ready to go. And after that, we are, of course, going to jump over to the brown paint. Now with the brown, we're just going to give it a single highlight. It is going to get mostly covered by the rider as well. So it doesn't need to be, you don't put too much attention into it. I gave some Imperial Fist contrast for the eyes. Now, obviously, I was careful when I was painting this thing, and I did know that I was going to contrast the eyes, so I didn't get any paint on them. So they were a nice gray sear already. If, whilst you were applying the orange or the black, you accidentally painted over the eyes, no problem. Just get some gray sear, some white, or some pallid witch flesh, or any kind of bright whitish color, and paint the eyeballs, and then throw a contrast over the top of them. Catachan Flesh is a really nice brown color that I like using to highlight like browny leather. I've used it on a bunch of different things, and obviously to layer up this saddle on this beastie, it's going to make an excellent color for that too. Now there is loads of extra bits. There's like stitching and stuff that you can go in and spend a whole heap of time doing, but like I said, I don't think anyone who looks at the model is going to be drawn to those details. If you're looking between the beastie and the rider, you're not going to pay attention to anything in between. So I'm just going to ignore it. So as I can see, I'm going to go for a one-stage highlight on the skin. think I use Ogre and Camo or something like that to highlight that. And then we're just going to go through and highlight all the other bits and pieces. Slightly brighter brown for the brown areas. We're going to use the Death Reaper black for highlighting the black areas, like the net across his shoulder, stuff like that. Got a silver paint that we're going in and highlighting all of the bronze or brass and silver parts of the model. Like I said, just quick, easy steps, things that I've showed in other videos a couple of times before. I wanted like I said, the beastie to be the primary focus of this video. In case I hadn't said that already in the recording of this, you know, maybe once or twice, 7 times. And then of course, like I said, highlighting the bronze with the silver. It just does work a treat, it looks great. And obviously I don't want this guy to stand out from the other Kroot. He's not like, he's just a Kroot warrior. Of course, we are now going to obviously break him off his handle and glue him directly onto his beastie. I think he suits it down to the ground. The tones all match. Really pleased with this. I'm going to add now just a spot of extra color by adding in all of the nice grass tufts that I want to this guy. I've got some quite large grass tufts that I'm going to cut in half and use in a couple of places around his base. Mainly because I used it on some of the other creatures I've already painted up for the Tau. I want these guys to be playing on like a jungle board, or at least something with it's got like heavy cover, and hence my wanting of adding lots of nice, like if I get more flowers and stuff like that, I will add them to his base as well, and I think that will make all the difference. So just a touch of super glue and grass tufts to your taste, like seasoned to taste. And then we have our finished Tau Lone-spear. Here he is next to one of the other Tau creatures that I have finished. And obviously, that's the muted one, and then this is the bright, vibrant beast. That's why I think he's going to stand out way more at tabletop. So spending a little bit more time on him, I think, is worth it. Here's a couple of images. Take some high-res images. You can see what he might actually look like on the tabletop under some nice white lights. And then, of course, taken some photos of him under lights that are just a little bit warmer, and I think it looks even better. And that will give us our finished Tau Lone-spear. Okay guys, and there we have it. My beautiful Lone-spear is now complete. I must say I am a little bit besotted by the range of Kroot miniatures. I definitely think the next full 40k army that I do will be a full Kroot army. I know it's not going to be particularly kind of gamey on the tabletop, but I think I will have a lot of fun playing it. Especially if I pick some of my friends and we have some themed games. I have it in my head to do a full Katachan v Kroot kind of micro campaign, which I think will be incredible. So maybe I will do that in the near future. As you'll notice, I did 90% Games Workshop paints whilst painting this thing, but I did lean a little bit on the Too Thin Coats range of paints. There is a conversion guide down below, so if you want to follow along just using Games Workshop paints, like I said, click on the conversion chart and it will tell you which Games Workshop paint to use. If you want to pick up the Too Thin Coats, like I said, Element Game link down below. You can get them at a little bit of a discount and a kickback to me, so if that's something that interests you. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did learn something or just had some fun watching. If you did any of those things, make sure you give the video a like. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below, including telling me what other units from the Kroot you want to see painted on the channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any and all future updates. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.